It's time to dust off that old copy of Battlefield 2042. And if I'm being totally honest, I haven't actually played Battlefield 2042 since the launch of the latest season. Not so much because I'm not enjoying Battlefield, but because there's been so many other good games dominating my playlist as of late. Diablo 4 did a real number on me. That Blizzard algorithm knows how to engage me for endless amounts of hours. I had to forcibly remove that one from my playlist, and now the new Battlefield alternative BattleBit is basically invading my brain. And honestly, coming back to Battlefield 2042 after playing BattleBit so much is really interesting because it makes it very clear what's better and, well, what's worse. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. I'm always on the lookout for my next mobile gaming craze, and Tactical brings a neat new format that just works awesomely on my phone. It's a top-down PvP shooter with simple controls, a great presentation, and plenty of game modes to mix things up. So far I've been playing a lot of Capture the Bag and just having a blast with it. The matches are nice and short so I can hop in and out of the action, which is exactly what I want from a mobile game. It's also fun to mix things up with different loadouts or just grab a vehicle and mow down the enemy team. It features over 80 real-world weapons, customizable characters, destructible environments, vehicles, and more. Tactical also has a huge community with over 20 million players, clans, and in-game voice chat. This is one of those games where the rabbit hole will go as deep as you want it to. If you're looking for a casual drop-in and drop-out shooter that you can play a few rounds a day on, you're good to go. But if you want to play more, you can get deep into it with the Battle Pass and custom loadouts. There's a ton of stuff to progress and try out. Check out Tactical with my link in the description, and new players can use my promo code TACDIED or scan this QR code to get the Jason Operator, an RPG, and 50,000 silver. Now, something that's just obviously better in BattleBit is the front-end experience. Loading up Battlefield 2042 requires me to launch the game like 5 times before it actually launches. Why is this? I don't really know, but others do struggle with the exact same thing. Then, after finally loading up the game to try out the new event, I can't find a single active server. After trying every game mode over and over again, I checked the settings, and sure enough, the game has defaulted back to crossplay off. And I only thought to check here because, well, I've dealt with this problem before. I would imagine new players might just give up and return the game or stop playing at this point. Other developers simply can't afford to have a front-end experience this bad. BattleBit certainly can't, so why on earth does DICE think that their front end can be in this kind of condition? And this isn't new. I was pointing out the problems with their matchmaking experience in the very first months of the game's launch, and it really hasn't improved much. If I queue up for a 128 player conquest round, I get matched into a server that's like almost entirely bots. I don't want to play with bots, and I don't much care what mode I play. I just want to play the one that has people in it. But there's still no obvious way to join the populated game modes from the front end experience. I just have to keep jumping between modes until I find what the popular ones that people are playing. And it's an obviously flawed system with obvious solutions, and it should have been anticipated before the game was even released. I advocated for a server browser for so long, not because I think the game absolutely has to have one, but because the front-end experience is so bad. And if they had a good front-end experience, I probably wouldn't even use the server browser much if they had one. I don't use BattleBit's server browser that much since their front end just works. But if player population in BattleBit ever drops, it has a server browser to fall back on where I can find the populated modes. Now, in my recent video titled BattleBit vs. Battlefield, a wake-up call, the top comment on that video with 9.2 thousand upvotes reads like this: "Cannot understate the importance of how fast you can open the game and get into a 256 player server. No obnoxious intro, no music, straight into gaming. Brilliant." And while I think the commenter meant to say overstate instead of understate, the point is still clear. These are people coming from the Battlefield franchise who are used to a slow, cumbersome matchmaking experience and are frankly sick of it. So having a game so similar to Battlefield that just lets you get into a match fast and then rolls over right into another round is practically a euphoric experience compared to 2042. And I'd gotten so used to the process in 2042 that it wasn't really at the forefront of my mind until BattleBit reminded me what a good front-end experience can actually be like. And it actually sucks because I still really enjoy playing Battlefield 2042. It's become a very competent game from the actual gameplay perspective, but it still has a user experience that's being essentially mocked by a 3-man dev team. And let's be honest, the BattleBit main menu is basically a copy of past Battlefield menus, except they don't specify the game mode. They just say, what size match do you want to play? 254, 128, or 64? 3 options. That's it. You join up and you're ready to go. Now, front-end experience aside, once I'm in a game of Battlefield 2042, I'm having fun again. I feel like I can control my combat space in 2042 much better compared to, say, BattleBit, and I tend to just do much better overall because of this. The new limited time game mode control is actually quite cool, and it's sort of a throwback to older games like Command & Conquer Renegade and others that allow you to buy vehicles with the points that you earn in the match. It kind of plays a lot like Conquest, but the start of the round is mostly infantry focused with a slow ramp up toward the more powerful vehicle usage. But unlike Conquest, where some guy sits on the chopper spawn all around and I never get a turn, in Control I always get enough points to grab a little bird or a tank and try him out at least once. It's quite nice because I've always enjoyed mixing vehicle gameplay into my average round of Battlefield, but 2042 made me feel like it was less accessible since so many players are often just waiting on those spawns. Now, the capture points despawn and respawn in Control, which is a really fun mechanic that forces players to move around the map and not just stick to a single objective. I hope that DICE is testing out more mechanics like this for the next Battlefield game. Round evolution is an important feature in my opinion. Basically, modes that don't play the same at the end as they did at the start are more interesting, and players seem to really be enjoying Control as well. Sadly, one of the bigger disappointments with these limited time modes is that they are, well, limited. Battlefield clearly doesn't have the player count to populate all the modes at all the times, but imagine if they had an end of round voting screen where you could vote on a mode type for the next game and it would let you pick the appropriate size modes, including the limited time ones, kind of like what, say, BattleBit is currently doing. Why make limited time content for the game that's already lacking on content and then have it disappear forever? Toss it into a rotational voting system that keeps players entertained with the variety, when they choose to vote for it, of course. Now, the Battlefield player count, while not massively high, has maintained a respectable player count considering the history of the game and its current age. The seasonal content is entertaining and it allows for tons of progress without forcing players into a brutal grind, which I think a lot of people have voiced an appreciation for. However, Battlefield does and really always has lacked good long-term progression rewards. And it seems like they lose a lot of their concurrent player count once the seasonal content is finished, as there isn't really a lot left to progress toward. Still, the gameplay overall is feeling quite solid with much better class and weapon balance overall, at least compared to when the game launched. I still think the weakest area of 2042's gameplay is the relationship between infantry and vehicles. Taking out heavily armored vehicles seems so much more reliant on C5 compared to rockets that seem more like warning shots that tankers can run away from. There's also considerably less skill shot opportunities compared to previous games like sniping pilots out of helicopters or aircraft. It just seems much harder to do. There seems to be less angles and more armor for the actual pilots to get away from it. And I don't really see any way for 2042 to reintegrate that into their current design, so hopefully it's just something that's really considered for the next Battlefield title. Now, moving forward with this season, we'll have the final map rework for Hourglass. This is the largest and also most problematic map from 2042's launch, and the rework looks very substantial, with entire new areas of cover, massive changes to the highway system, and new underground sections. I am of course a little bit worried that it might end up like the Kaleidoscope rework in that the poor starting layout can only be taken so far. But even so, it'll be exciting to see how it changes up the experience, and it'll be nice to know that loading into a match of 2042 guarantees that it'll be a map made to the more updated design standards. We are, however, still pretty much clueless about what's on offer for Season 6. I would imagine that info will come with or after the final update for Season 5. We know it's not going to include a new specialist, but there's a possibility that it might include maybe more than one map, since the map reworks will essentially be finished up at this point, allowing for more people to work on more new maps. And with the next major Battlefield title being slated for a 2024 or even 2025 release, I'm still wondering if DICE will attempt to bridge the gap between titles with more 2042 content. And if they're not planning on that, well, there's certainly other games willing to offer the Battlefield players a great alternative experience. Let me know in the comments how you guys are enjoying the Battlefield 2042 experience lately. The release of BattleBit has sparked a ton of chat about what Battlefield players want, but I've also seen plenty of people saying that they prefer 2042's gameplay and classic Battlefield experience over BattleBit, as it could be argued that it's a much more refined and intentional experience over the more chaotic one that's offered from BattleBit. Let me know what you're playing and how you feel about it in the comments, and next up, check out this video on Battlefield versus BattleBit. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. This is Level Cap signing off.